Systems, systems, systems. They're the things you interact with, the mining and gathering of resources, the crafting of items, the process of traveling, the user interface, acquiring and upgrading equipment, acquiring and upgrading of the player or characters, the questing and progression of story, and if I was to continue naming them, I would be here for a while because you can create a system out of nothing. The systems in a video game are essentially everything you interact with in the video game. Even the combat is a system, but I'm going to exclude that as the previous part of this series was gameplay, which covered combat. When you look at the action RPG genre, there are always a handful of systems that are present, and those are the gathering and crafting of resources and items, the acquiring and upgrading of equipment and the player or characters if you collect characters in said video game, the questing and progression of the main story, and the UI or user interface. And if we take a look at a game who is the undefeated king of this genre, you will see just how well it can be done. The Elder Scrolls damn near perfected all these aspects, hunting wild wolves for leather and gathering iron from a nearby mineshaft to then smelt at the local blacksmith to then craft into armor and weapons. Upgrading those weapons and armor requires similar items that were used to craft it in higher quantities and potentially an extra new item for the last upgrade. Questing is very role-playing centered, receiving quest information purely done through voice dialogue with a small marker to help you navigate across the world, and quests themselves are able to be found almost everywhere. And some portions of the user interface are very simple, fantasy-styled boxes, but others are immersive beyond belief. Take crafting equipment for example, hammering away at an anvil in the background as you smelt items, or tanning some hide as you convert leather into leather strips. All these systems and how they are made heavily impact either the enjoyability or the immersiveness in your game rather greatly. Having a very stingy and unoptimized upgrade system can lead to players not enjoying the new weapons and equipment, and having a very static and basic user interface can lead to players feeling less immersed in your world. Now, Skyrim is hailed as one of the greatest, and by no means am I going to hold Genshin or Honkai to the same standards, but in this video, I want to take a look at these four aspects in relation to Genshin Impact and Honkai Impact. So as always, let's take a look at Genshin Impact first. Gathering resources is crucial to upgrading all weapons and characters in Genshin. There are resources gatherable from around the map like ore veins and regional specialties, monster drops also acquired from around the map, but each enemy drops a unique resource, or domain resources which are used specifically for upgrading weapons. Val berries can be obtained from the northern region of Mondstadt, and Whopper flower nectar can be obtained from killing Whopper flowers scattered around the world. And this system applies to all important resources. Each region has areas with specific monsters and specialties, and if you're looking to farm specific resources, I would advise checking out the official Genshin Impact interactive map, as it outlines the specific locations of all resources. But now that you have mined ores, gathered monster material and specialties, and done a few domains for upgrade material, where do you use them? Well, let's say you want to get yourself a nice weapon. You can do this in two different ways. You can either use the ores you just gathered and another material obtained from weekly bosses called billets to craft yourself a 4-star weapon, or you can indulge yourself in the gacha system, and as you can guess, the gacha weapons are substantially stronger. To quickly explain the weapon gacha system, there are always 2 featured weapons and a bunch of featured 4-star weapons. One 4-star is guaranteed per 10 pull, but if it's a weapon or a character is up to RNG. As for the rates on the 5-star weapons, you will get one guaranteed 5-star weapon every 80 pulls. And it is technically a 50-50 on which one you will get, but it feels more like a 40-40-20 as you can get weapons that aren't the featured ones. You will also see the current epitomized path system. This lets you pick one of the featured 5-stars, and before you jump to conclusions, no, this doesn't make it so your next 5-star is the one you chose. The epitomized path works like this. You choose one of the weapons, and then for every 5-star that you get that isn't the one you chose, you will get 1 point to a max of 2 points. Once at 2 points, the very next 5-star weapon you get will be your chosen weapon. But be sure not to change what weapons you have chosen for the epitomized path while having 1 or 2 points, as that will remove the points, thus making your rolls null and void. So let's do some basic maths really quickly. If you want to guarantee yourself the current featured weapon, which is the Redhorn Stone Thresher, you will have to roll at most 240 pulls, which equates to 38,400 Primo Gems, or roughly $300 to $400. And this is just to guarantee yourself one copy. Well, to be honest with you, that is the worst case scenario. You can always just be extremely lucky and win the so-called 50-50. But let's say it's your lucky day and you get your weapon of choice. Now you're wondering what goes into leveling it and upgrading it. Increasing the weapon's level uses ore enhancement material, which can be gotten from various areas in the game, and ascending the weapon to the next level threshold uses the materials you have farmed from specific domains, and specific monster materials. You can do this to a max of level 90 with the cost increasing the whole way through. Now that you have your weapon at level 90, you need a character to use it on. You may be happy with a few free characters you get at the start of the game, but you may also want some new ones to have a bit of fun. And the only way to get new characters is to roll on the character banner. Before you jump to another conclusion, the character banner works differently to the weapon banner, so let me explain that as well. Let's say you're trying to get Arataki Ito because you just got his weapon and you have never rolled on the character banner. Well, to get a guaranteed 5-star character, it's gonna take you 90 rolls instead of 80. But the first time you get a 5-star, it is a 50-50 between the featured character and any other 5-star, including characters and weapons. Knowing this, there are key bits to note down. If you win the 50-50 and get the featured character, then your chances will remain 50-50 for the next 5-star character. But if you lose the first 50-50, the next 5-star will be guaranteed the featured character. And that is the fundamentals of the character banner. If you win, it stays 50-50. If you lose, the next one is guaranteed. I should also mention that I can read your mind, and you're wondering why the character and weapon banner works differently, and the answer is simple. Only God knows. Upgrading the characters works pretty much identically to the weapons. You need a specific regional specialty as well as monster material found from around the world to ascend the character, and Hero's Wit to level up the character, which can be farmed from the blue ley lines. Moving away from the depressing gacha though, questing is done rather well in Genshin. All important quests are shown to you in the quest menu, and you can find out what requirements you need to fill to accept the quests. And the game does have random open world quests that have you interact with random civilians, which is an extremely nice touch. And even the process of questing is done nicely. You exchange dialogue with characters that give you the task or quest, you get a small marker to follow, you follow the marker to completion, and boom, quest done. Very nice. The only problem that I could even find with this is that all the dialogue is done through standstill dialogue cutscenes. You very rarely start a conversation with a character and then move around the world as they talk and give you information. This isn't super important, but standing still when you have an open world you could be moving around feels odd sometimes. Also, add a skip dialogue button please. It's no secret Genshin's UI looks good. It's nice and sharp and follows a general theme of pristine and celestial, and this is mainly noticed through the pause menu and the character menu. But even the gacha system has it. When you wish for a character, you have a meteor rain in from the heavens, giving that celestial aesthetic. But the UI isn't without its quote-unquote faults. Take the inventory for example. It's just your bog standard inventory, just tabs at the top separating key items and the items being shown in standard squares. Nothing really trying to show off the whole traveler aesthetic. While if you press F1, it will pull up the traveler handbook and it shows this very immersive book with bookmarks on the side as you turn each page and show different tasks. Some parts of the UI feel immersive and others feel like they are following a theme, which is totally fine. All systems in Genshin, barring the gacha system, work extremely well. From gathering resources to crafting weapons and items, to questing from region to region and even interacting with the UI. It all feels great, but now let's take a look at how Honkai Impact handles it. Firstly, Honkai isn't intrinsically an open world game, so gathering is done differently. So let me explain how it works both normally and when you do go into an open world. Gathering resources normally in Honkai is done through stages. You go in, you beat some enemies, and at the end, you get the resources. But the resources you get are less varied than they are in Genshin. You'll be at most farming a handful of different resources like phase shifters and Sakura wills to use as upgrade material, Honkai pieces to craft foundry weapons, and Honkai shards to boost weapons further, ether fuel for stigma crafting, and many more resources that are used for specific things, but each material is unlocked for farming one by one as you level up. As for the open world portion, Honkai by nature is a stage-based game, and the times you can go into an open world, everything you do in that open world is only usable or applicable to that open world. AFO 1 and 2 have their crystallums, Shixel HQ has its mech box things, and all of them have some sort of chest collection. But nothing that you gather can be used in the actual game, only in the open world you found it in. Now, how do you get weapons and characters so you can use your upgrade materials? Well, it's rather simple. The Foundry will let you craft a large range of weapons using Honkai pieces as well as stigmatas using SS Imaginon, but everything you craft will probably not be as good as the gacha weapons and stigmata. so let me explain the gacha to the best of my ability because even I still don't fully understand it. Whenever a new character rolls out, you'll be able to guarantee them for yourself in 100 rolls. No 50-50, just guaranteed at 100 rolls. But you can get them within 100 if you are lucky. 100 rolls is equal to 28,000 crystals, which roughly equals $600 to $700, not including first-time purchase bonus. That 100 roll number for the guaranteed can be interchangeable with 50 rolls, depending on if it's a weapon or a specific type of character. You determine this by looking at the top right of the supply screen. In my eyes right now, Honkai is a bit more generous, and I'll explain that in a future video of Genshin vs Honkai about the acquisition of Primo Gems and Crystals. Honkai doesn't have the authentic questing experience either. You don't walk around interacting with NPCs and getting quests randomly. Well, at least not for the most part. A large portion of Honkai's main quest will be done in a visual novel style. You will enter a stage, have a bulk of dialogue to introduce the situation, and then you will have a combat sequence, maybe some dialogue at the end, and then you move on to the next stage, same process. A visual novel with gameplay. But I did say for the most part, once you encounter the open worlds, i.e. the Sakura Samsara, AFO 1 and 2, Shixel HQ, and even some of the later stages, you will start to walk around and interact with NPCs, doing quests like an average action RPG. And while they aren't the most fleshed out quests or super in-depth, it's rather nice to have both styles. Out of the systems that I am taking a look at though, the UI has to be the weakest for Honkai, but that is not to say that it's bad. A large percentage of Honkai UI is just panels and boxes with images telling you what is what, and that is aesthetically pleasing as it follows the aesthetic of sci-fi with the mechanical panels and the futuristic holograms. But a very small percent of the UI is very, very immersive. Take the main menu for example. The whole background is a moving image portraying you as piloting the Hyperion, making it feel like whenever you embark on a mission, you set the coordinates and tell the crew where to go. And another example of great immersive UI is the Divine Keys menu. Instead of just having boxes with pictures of the Divine Keys, you get this really epic 3D area with holograms or real copies of the Divine Keys, depending on if you have them. They float on these pedestals, giving the sense of unrivaled power. Honkai keeps in line with the theme of sci-fi without being too immersive, and that is fine too. So let's summarize. Genshin has you gather resources around an open world, and all resources are pretty much available to you from the start of the game. Each resource can be found in a specific location, and each character or weapon you get needs a specific resource to be gathered. While Honkai has you do stages to get resources, you unlock the method of farming resources as you level up, and as they are required, as well as characters and weapons don't need specific materials to be upgraded. Both games have craftable weapons and gacha weapons. While the gacha weapons are always stronger, the difference is that Genshin's craftable weapons are much weaker than the gacha, and Honkai's craftable weapons are weaker, but not by too much. The actual gacha itself in Genshin is rather greedy to an extent, obviously, with there being no guarantee from the get-go, while Honkai has a clear outline of when something is guaranteed with no 50-50 or method to reset that number due to RNG. The open world does wonders for questing in Genshin Impact, having interesting characters and a beautiful world to explore while doing said quests makes the whole experience a lot more enjoyable. But Honkai doesn't falter with its visual novel style of delivering dialogue, giving a bit more of an intense feeling during conversations. Interacting with the UI may not be the most important activity, but it is one that you'll always be doing, and both games do an astonishing job at it. Both games keep in line with their chosen aesthetic, with Genshin's celestial traveler fantasy and Honkai's futuristic alien sci-fi. Both games look and feel great when interacting with the UI. I love these systems in both games, and determining which one is better than the other is beyond difficult, but if I have to say which one provides a better experience, then I would have to give Genshin Impact the point. What do you think of the systems between the two games? Do you think Honkai does a better job, or does Genshin take the win here? Tell me in the comments below. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, like the video and consider subscribing. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you in the next one.